Yellowstone reunited two actors 24 years after they made one of the best modern westerns of all time. Fans can always count on writers and directors to have a deep knowledge of the genres they make movies in, especially when that filmmaker becomes synonymous with a particular genre. In the case of Taylor Sheridan, it became evident early in his career that he had a knack for the western genre based on some of the movies he was writing. While Sicario merges multiple genres, there are western elements in the film. Sheridan showed audiences that he had an eye for contemporary westerns as early as 2016 when he wrote Hell or High Water. When it came time to make his hit series for Paramount+, he perfected the new contemporary western when he made Yellowstone. Since making the Yellowstone spin-offs, Sheridan has also shown his affinity for classical westerns by making modern versions of the genre with 1883 and 1923. This proved that Taylor Sheridan was a pure Western genre storyteller with a deep understanding of the genre. This doesn't just apply to the writer and directors, but also to the actors. When Taylor Sheridan cast Kevin Costner in the role of John Dutton, it wasn't just because he thought Costner would be perfect for the part, but also because Costner shared Sheridan's passion for the Western genre with a similar love for it. Costner himself is more than just an actor, as he directed multiple westerns in the 90s and aughts that helped shape the genre for the modern age. Both Sheridan and Costner have a vast knowledge and care for the genre that goes back decades, and many of the films that came out during the course of film history. Sheridan clearly looked at Costner's own work in the genre and probably enjoyed his films back in the 90s as much as any other fan during that time. Therefore, Sheridan looked at some of Costner's films and pulled a lot of influence from them when making Yellowstone. This shows the decision to cast Costner, but also to cast other actors from some of Costner's classic films. This has caused a few interesting reunions on the set of Yellowstone. Ian Bohen plays a key role throughout multiple Yellowstone seasons. When Yellowstone first premiered in 2018, audiences were quickly introduced to the dynamics of the characters and how things run in the heart of the ranching world in Montana. What looks like a typical ranching family on the surface is revealed to be a much larger powerhouse in the greater landscape of the contemporary West. John Dutton's family has been powerful for generations, mainly because of their hold over one of the most valuable pieces of land in the entire United States. Owning this kind of commodity just means that everyone else around them is trying to take it all the time. This becomes the core drama of the entire series, and audiences slowly understand how things work in Yellowstone. With enemies surrounding them throughout the story, the Duttons quickly reveal the lengths they will go to protect what's theirs. Fans are quickly enjoying a modern-day Wild West melodrama where violence, danger, and destruction seem to reign all around the characters. With criminality a big part of how the Duttons survive, the ranch and its inhabitants take on core values such as honor, loyalty, and strength. In many ways, the Dutton Ranch is like a Wild West organized crime outfit. Fans are introduced to multiple characters throughout the series who play big roles on the ranch or protecting the ranch from the outside. The ranch hands, in particular, are central characters who not only tend the ranch on a day-to-day basis, but are called upon when things get muddy. These ranch hands are more than workers, as they are expected to live and die by a certain code of honor and not cower when things get tough. One of the key ranch hands is the character Ryan, who is initially portrayed as a regular day-to-day worker. As Ryan becomes more ingrained in the inner workings of the Dutton Empire, he is elevated to a higher status, one that keeps him tethered to the ranch in a whole new way. When the Duttons battle enemies in later seasons of the series, Ryan is involved heavily in a lot of these situations. He works for John and has many important interactions with John Dutton throughout the series. Actor Ian Bohen spent day after day and year after year working across from the great Kevin Costner as they turned Yellowstone into the hit series it became. However, it wasn't the first time the two actors worked together on screen. Kevin Costner and Ian Bohen worked together in the 1994 Wyatt Earp movie. In the 1990s, a sudden shift occurred in the Western genre when actor-turned-director Kevin Costner adapted the acclaimed Michael Blake novel, Dances with Wolves, into a contemporary revisionist Western for the screen. The film was met with a ton of praise and even won the Academy Award for Best Picture that year. While it continued to highlight Costner's skills as an actor, It also showed audiences the kind of vision he had for big-scale historical storytelling. Costner would continue to prove that he had an eye for westerns throughout the 90s and into the aughts, as he made multiple films over a decade. His highly anticipated follow-up to Dances with Wolves saw him return solely to the top of the call sheet in Lawrence Kasdan's historical western Wyatt Earp. The film tells the story of the famous lawman throughout his life, all the way up to the iconic gunfight at the OK Corral and beyond. The film was mostly enjoyed by audiences despite being something of a letdown in comparison to Costner's previous work that decade. It also didn't help that, just 1 year prior to the film, a better and more entertaining version of the story was told in the iconic 1993 Western Tombstone. Either way, the mid-90s were a great time for westerns and the figure of Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp is much more biographically accurate than other portrayals of the Western figure, but also has a lot less flair to it than other iterations. The film is considered one of the more entertaining westerns of the 90s and highlights Costner's acting skills once again, as he leads a cast that includes Dennis Quaid and the late Gene Hackman. While the film suffered from some pacing problems and didn't utilize everything at its disposal, it did provide an epic exploration of one of the most famous lawmen in American history. Costner shines as he embodies the role of Earp, and the script intricately details various aspects of the character's life. One area of Wyatt Earp's life that gets explored as well is his formative years. During these sequences in the film, Wyatt Earp is a young and ambitious boy with a lot of grit. However, naturally, Costner was unable to play the character at this point in his life. Taylor Sheridan must have been drawing from all corners of his influences when he cast Ian Bohen, who happened to play young Wyatt Earp in the same 1994 film where Kevin Costner plays the character. 24 years later, Costner and Bohen entertainingly reunited in Sheridan's Yellowstone. Ian Bohen worked on another Taylor Sheridan project before Yellowstone. On the surface, it might seem like Taylor Sheridan is remembering a small role Ian Bohen had in a big Kevin Costner western from 2 decades earlier. However, Sheridan actually collaborated with Ian Bohen just 1 year prior to production of his hit western series Yellowstone. Before Taylor Sheridan became a prominent showrunner for Paramount+, he was a working screenwriter in Hollywood, having written numerous hit movies that emerged in the 2010s. When Sheridan finally made his directorial debut, it was for one of his films in the same contemporary Western genre as Hell or High Water and Yellowstone. Fans of Sheridan's work recall the 2017 film Wind River as one of his best, which he made just 1 year prior to Yellowstone. In the film, the character of Evan is played by Ian Bohen, who obviously worked closely with Sheridan throughout the film's production. This undoubtedly led to Sheridan casting Bohen as Ryan the following year in Yellowstone. The fact that Costner and Bohen worked together briefly in the 1994 film Wyatt Earp is mostly a happy coincidence, and, in fact, Sheridan has become known for collaborating with many of the same actors on his projects. Between James Jordan appearing in just about every Sheridan series, Michelle Randolph becoming a rising star in 2 Sheridan projects, and even Jeremy Renner going from Wind River to Mayor of Kingstown, there is more than one example of Sheridan recycling actors he really likes. Nonetheless, fans have enjoyed the fact that Kevin Costner and Ian Bohen have had huge roles in popular titles of the Western genre 24 years apart.